Cinderella and the Enchanted Forest. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Cinderella. She was beautiful both inside and out, but her life was filled with hardship. Cinderella lived with her wicked stepmother and two selfish stepsisters who treated her as a servant, making her do all the household chores from dawn until dusk. Despite her struggles, Cinderella remained hopeful and kind. Her only companions were the animals in the garden, the birds, the mice, and a friendly squirrel named Nutmeg. One day, as Cinderella was sweeping the kitchen, a royal proclamation arrived. The king and queen were hosting a grand ball at the palace to find a bride for their son, Prince Alexander. The whole kingdom buzzed with excitement, including Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters. They spent days preparing their finest gowns and practicing their dance steps. Cinderella, too, dreamed of attending the ball, but her stepmother cruelly denied her any chance, saying she had too many chores to finish. On the evening of the ball, after her stepmother and stepsisters had left for the palace, Cinderella sat by the fireplace and wept. Suddenly, a warm, glowing light filled the room. Cinderella looked up and saw her fairy godmother standing before her, a kind smile on her face. "Don't cry, dear Cinderella," said the fairy godmother. "You shall go to the ball. But first, we need to make a few changes." With a wave of her wand, the fairy godmother transformed Cinderella's rags into a stunning gown of shimmering blue, and on her feet appeared delicate glass slippers. "But how will I get there?" Cinderella asked, marveling at her transformation. The fairy godmother smiled and, with another wave of her wand, turned a pumpkin into a splendid carriage, mice into horses, and Nutmeg the squirrel into a coachman. "Remember, my dear," the fairy godmother warned, "this magic will only last until midnight. You must return home before the clock strikes 12. Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and stepped into the carriage, feeling like a princess. As she arrived at the palace, everyone was captivated by her beauty, including Prince Alexander. He immediately asked her to dance, and they spent the entire evening in each other's company, laughing and talking as if they had known each other forever. As the night wore on, Cinderella lost track of time. Suddenly, she heard the clock start to chime midnight. Panicked, she pulled away from the prince and ran from the palace, leaving behind one of her glass slippers on the grand staircase. Prince Alexander was determined to find the mysterious girl who had stolen his heart. The next day, he declared that he would marry the girl whose foot fit the glass slipper. He and his servants traveled throughout the kingdom, visiting every house. When they arrived at Cinderella's home, her stepsisters eagerly tried on the slipper, but their feet were too large. Just as they were about to leave, Cinderella appeared. Her stepmother tried to prevent her, but the prince noticed Cinderella and invited her to try on the slipper. It fit perfectly. Overjoyed, Prince Alexander took Cinderella's hand and declared her his bride. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters could only watch in shock as she was whisked away to the palace. The wedding was a grand celebration, and Cinderella and Prince Alexander lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with kindness and grace. And what happened to Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters? Cinderella, being the kind soul she was, forgave them. However, they had to learn to live humbly and kindly, for they no longer had Cinderella to do their bidding. As for Cinderella, she never forgot her fairy godmother, Nutmeg, and her animal friends. She often visited the Enchanted Forest where her journey had begun, always remembering that kindness and hope could turn even the darkest days into the brightest adventures. The end.